The 4WD Mechanics 2005 Dodge Ram truck serves a variety of uses. The truck is well equipped with aftermarket accessories, add-ons like an auxiliary fuel tank, hefty winch bumper, a 4-inch chassis lift, and oversized tires. Curb weight is shown here with a full tank of auxiliary fuel is approximately 8,900 pounds. Add to that our towing package of an 8,400-pound travel trailer. Add 2 occupants and the over-the-road weight is close to 17,700 pounds. The original equipment rear drivelines on these models leave much to be desired. U-joint fatigue and failure is common. A contributing factor is this original equipment vibration damper. This causes more issues with regard to wear and fatigue on the driveline. We depend on this truck and need a reliable powertrain. For a driveline solution, we turn to Driveshaft Specialist, Inc. DSI knows trucks, from commercial vehicles to high-performance, high-output diesel trucks. This shop builds the ultimate drivelines. A specialty is the 5-inch diameter aluminum precision balanced driveshaft. Our 05 3500 Ram truck had a one-piece original equipment driveshaft. We elected to go with the 5-inch diameter replacement. This includes an upgrade to 1480 size universal joints. DSI also replaces 2-piece drivelines with a 1-piece 5-inch diameter oversized aluminum driveshaft. Longer wheelbase trucks typically feature 2-piece drivelines with a center support bearing. The added mass and complexity of this driveline can be simplified with the installation of the 5-inch diameter aluminum driveshaft. Use of a 1-piece driveshaft does require removal of the center support bracket from the frame. This provides the necessary clearance for the driveshaft. In addition to the added mass of a 2-piece driveshaft, many late model vehicles feature driveshafts with friction welded tubes and a center support bearing that cannot be replaced. Such a non-serviceable driveshaft is a candidate for an upgrade from DSI. Construction of our custom driveshaft from Driveshaft Specialist, Inc. began with carefully filling out a form with details about the truck. Driveshaft Specialist, Inc. provides guidelines for measuring the length of the proposed driveshaft. Though not requested, we provided additional details that would help identify the driveshaft, its length, the application, plus original equipment ID tag information. Driveshaft Specialist, Inc. works with this information to provide a mail-order driveshaft of the correct length. Our driveshaft arrived intact and well protected. Immediately obvious was the high quality of the components built into the driveshaft. The 5-inch diameter, 1/8-inch thick tube is Alcoa. The welded flange ends are from Sonax. The universal joints are high-end Spicer 1480 XL series. The use of high-end quality materials makes this 5-inch driveshaft capable of handling 800-plus diesel horsepower and 1,570 pound-feet of torque in a highly modified Dodge Ram 2500 truck. There are additional testimonials at Driveshaft Specialist, Inc. that attest to horsepower input through a 5-inch aluminum driveshaft with this same 1480 U-joint at 1,396 horsepower and 2,462 pound-foot of torque. With our Dodge Ram 3500 5.9-liter Cummins engine running Hypertech Max Energy Stage 3 tuning, our maximum horsepower is 353 at 3,000 RPM and 656 foot-pounds of torque at 2,150. Considering our gross combination weight, 456 gears with 34.6-inch diameter tires, and this level of tune. The 5.9-liter Cummins engine in our Ram 3500 should be propelling this drive shaft for many years of trouble-free and maintenance-free driving. The 1480 XL Series Spicer U-joints are cold-forged and rated 35% stronger than equivalent 1410 joints. Driveshaft removal begins with removing the 4 bolts at the rear mounting flange. Vehicle manufacturers generally recommend replacing these flange head bolts each time the driveshaft is removed. If you do reuse the bolts, remove all old thread locker from the threads. Bolts must show no signs of wear. Check the bolts for elongation of the threads and other defects. The rear U-joint flange is a light interference fit to the pinion flange. I use a plastic dead blow hammer with sand in the head. Tap lightly to release any rust. Then use a brass drift at the points indicated here. A drift and hammer will loosen the flange. Be prepared to catch the flange and drive shaft as it comes loose. In sliding the drive shaft slip yoke from the shaft on the transfer case, it is obvious that in one direction, the drive torque direction, there is a slight amount of side play in the coupler. This slight wobble is an indication of spline wear on the coupler. If so, the heavy damper would be a possible cause. This is the original equipment factory drive shaft from the Ram 3500. The swage down tubes and damper are the most outstanding features. As suspected, the coupler splines are worn. This is a wide-angle view. These worn splines at the drive side of the coupler put up the most resistance to the output shaft of the transfer case. Given the slight coupler wobble, the seal will be replaced. This is precautionary. Use care with the aluminum tail housing on the transfer case. There are reliefs cut into each side of the tail housing for use of a punch. Although this seal never leaked, it is important to replace it at 150,000 miles. The tail housing has a bushing, and that bushing is not worn. The new coupler should fit up fine with the splines. Loctite Superflex RTV sealant is used on the new seal. Note that the RTV sealant does not go past the sealing face. This will not contaminate the fluid in the transfer case. Also, when installing the seal, make sure that the drain hole is at the bottom of the dust cap. Apply grease between the double lips of the seal. This will prevent the seal from becoming damaged during initial break-in. This seal driver was improvised very simply using a 3-inch threaded coupler in PVC. The PVC is strong enough to use the dead blow sandhead hammer. Be certain to keep the seal square with the output housing. Drive cautiously and evenly side to side. If one side puts up more resistance than it should, concentrate on that point or realign the seal. Do not cock the seal or it will wedge in the housing and become damaged. For appearance sake and to prevent dust accumulation, the excess RTV sealant can be wiped away from the sealing joint. Here is a dramatic comparison between the OEM U-joint diameters and the bearing cap size on the DSI big 5.0-inch 1480 joint. The steel flange adds to the stamina. Gone is the damper. The aluminum weld flanges, the steel coupler, all parts are high grade and improvements over the OEM. Note that the coupler is slightly longer on the new 34 spline input. The new drive shaft is 5.0 inch by 0.125 inch heavy-duty 6061 T6 tubing. This is an Alcoa product, rated 7,303 pound-feet of torque. Poor OEM drive shaft tubes, by comparison, can be as low as 3,938 pound-feet rated, and the strongest factory OE tubes are rated 4,974 pound-feet. The big 5.0-inch drive shaft is built to the highest standards. There is a weight savings of 12 pounds, getting rid of the damper and going to the aluminum big 5-inch diameter. Installing the new drive shaft is straightforward. Take care to align the 34 spline coupler. Press the coupler through the new seal lips carefully. Prevent damaging the seals or dislodging the seal lip retainer spring. Align the U-joint flange carefully with the drive flange at the axle. Note how readily the 1480 U-joint and flange fit the OEM drive flange at the pinion. Our Ram 3500 has a mild 4-inch lift. The drive shaft slope for this one-piece drive shaft and 140.5-inch wheelbase is moderate. Part seated squarely, the bolts can be prepared for installation. We use Loctite 242 on the threads as recommended. Threads clean on the wire brush, the Loctite is applied. I use this technique for evenly spreading the Loctite around the threads of 2 bolts. In the process, Loctite is saved and spread uniformly. Start all bolts by hand and bring them up until the flange is flush with the pinion drive flange. Tighten bolts in cross to maintain a flush fit between parts. Repeat the application of Loctite 242 blue on the other 2 bolts. Using this method will prevent waste of expensive Loctite thread locker. Coat the threads thoroughly. It is much easier to rotate the drive shaft and drive flange as you secure these bolts. Tighten the bolts in cross. Once you are certain that the flanges mate together closely, you can use a torque wrench for final torque setting. These are grade 10.9 metric bolts and require 85 foot-pounds of torque. Bring up torque gradually and in cross and set the final torque to 85 foot-pounds. Repeat the check at 85 foot-pounds after part set for a few minutes. Once the drive shaft is securely in place, there is one more need. Check the driveline angles, especially if the vehicle has a lift. In this case, our Ram 3500 has spacer blocks at the rear that change the height of the chassis by 4 inches. This accommodates the 34.6-inch diameter tires. The driveline angles were correct on the original drive shaft, so in this case there is no need to make any checks. If we did need to check the angles, these would be the least expensive tools for that job. The goal is for the front and rear drive shaft to flange angles to cancel each other or be within 1/2 of 1 degree. If you need that geometry lesson, contact us at the forums, forums.4wdmechanics.com. If you need that information immediately, or do drive shaft angles on a regular basis and want the gold standard of angle checking gauges, the Spicer Angle Master, visit the Spicer Parts website online and look for the downloadable PDF service manuals for universal joints and drive shafts. Historically, the Spicer service manuals have been the most authoritative and thorough details on drive shaft angles, correcting drive shaft problems, and troubleshooting drive shaft issues. As a light and medium-duty truck fleet mechanic, In the late 1960s, I learned the value of the Spicer service and shop manuals. These authoritative manuals are the benchmark for troubleshooting, rebuilding, and designing safe and reliable drive shafts. We put up with the imbalance and U-joint issues on the original equipment drive shaft for this truck since new. Immediately noticeable the very first time we drove the truck with the new 5.0-inch diameter drive shafts with 1480 U-joints was how smooth, vibration-free, and unloaded the shaft feels. Immediately obvious with the installation of this new drive shaft is its precise high-speed balance. If you're looking for a superior drive shaft product, contact Driveshaft Specialist of Texas.